Okay, so this is our 5th session of fundamental concepts and definitions to review for the homeopathic repertory. And we're laying foundations so that we can have all of this ready at our fingertips. And I have something so exciting to talk about today. Did you guys know that you can download an imaged version of Kent's entire repertory, the entire book? Is that cool or what? Here, I'm going to show you. Looky here. Looky what we got. So there's this website, archive.org, that has all of these old books. So if you go to archive.org and you search for Kent's repertory, here you are. And you get little button pages where you can just turn the page back and forth. Have any of you guys used this? I know it's always nicer to have a book in the hand, and I like to have a book in the hand too. But there are times, especially when I'm trying to show something on my computer, that having a book in the hand, it's like, hi guys, can you look at this? We don't really want to do that. And so if you want to download this, feel free. It's not that big. You can download it, then you have it on your computer. And if you're someplace where you have your computer and you don't have your book, then you're still covered. Okay. So today we are carrying on with where we left off last time. Just to review where we are in our steps. We have symptoms that we work with that come to us from provings and from clinical experience, and we build those into materia medica pictures. And the materia medica is all the descriptions of all the symptoms about a remedy, and so it's listed within that one remedy. But people don't come into us and say, I am veratrum. So if you go look in the materia medica for veratrum, instead they come in and say, oh, I have this terrible vomiting and diarrhea, and I have this emotional upset, and I have this thing and this thing and this thing. And then you have to gather up all those symptoms, find the pattern, and figure out which remedies match all those symptoms. So we can only remember so many of these in our head, and instead of arranged by remedy, we need something that arranges them by symptom, and that's the repertory. And Kent standardized these arrangements, bless him. And the symptoms are grouped into sections, so I hope you've got your repertory there with you, because we're going to be using it during this session. So we just have another example. A symptom is represented in the repertory as a rubric. The word rubric means red, and it's a red letter notable item. So here we are with a symptom from Kent's repertory from the eye section of yellowness of the whites of the eye. And you can see all these remedy names that you've been getting very friendly with because you've been looking at your list and reviewing and making sure that you know what all those things are, even those very strange, obscure ones that you've never used. I have ones that I've never used. Every time I read that list, I find something where I think, wow, I've never heard of that remedy. This last week, I was at the California Homeopathic Medical Society conference in Corte Madera. And I was presenting something there, and there was an Indian homeopath who presented some information with a few remedies that I had never even heard the name. And I thought, wow, we all have so much to learn. And isn't that what makes homeopathy fascinating? Is that we never get to the bottom of it. Oh, lycopodium, done that. That never happens. There's always something more to learn. So These are arranged in the order of section and then symptoms within section. And within the sections, the remedies are arranged sort of mostly in alphabetical order. So, do you guys have your repertory handy? Because we're going to be diving in today. I hope you've got it there, either online or, in some grabbable way. Okay. So, last time we talked about the mind section. And as you go through this, see if you can go in there and find mind forgetful. You'll notice at the beginning, it starts with things like absent-minded. It starts with the A's, goes to the B's and the C's and the D's. Can you find mind forgetful? Let me know when you got there. Okay. And we're also I want you to look, how many remedies are in there under mind forgetful? A few, a bunch, 7? How many have you got in your repertory? A lot. It's a big rubric. Okay, and then now I want you to look under mind, memory, weakness of. Mind, memory, weakness of. Now, how are these the same and different? Is memory weakness of bigger, smaller than forgetful? Same remedies, different remedies? Look at it for a minute and see. What do you think? How similar or dissimilar are these rubrics? Is it basically the same rubric with a different name? A lot of overlap, but some different remedies, absolutely. So Kent was a master at subtlety. And forgetful, meaning there was something I was aware of that dropped out of my mind, may be due to other reasons than a weak memory. It may be because I'm very ADD distractible and I have shiny thing syndrome. It may be because I have a problem with no sense of time and I forgot that I was supposed to do this thing at a particular time because I have no sense of time. Or maybe I'm absent-minded. Or maybe I am so anxious that I can't pay attention. And all of those are different than weakness of memory. So this last weekend at the conference in Corte Madera, I was presenting about the way that the limbic system is impacted in post-concussive conditions. And we went through different kinds of memory. One of the kinds of memory that we have is spatial memory. So if you look under mind, memory, weakness of, can you find anything in there that might have to do with orientation, with getting lost, with finding your way around, a spatial memory? That would also apply to where you put your keys that you can't remember. Any rubrics in there, any sub-rubrics in there that are related to spatial memory? What do you see? Forgetful of well-known streets, right. So another type of memory is a temporal memory, where someone is associating a thing with time. Another one is I can't remember the word. It's a working memory issue where somebody can't remember the words. If somebody has a working memory, their short-term memory, and it's impaired, it's not working well, then what kinds of issues are they going to come up with? Maybe they wouldn't be able to think of what they were about to do. Is there a rubric for that? What they were about to say? Somebody's name? So in mind memory weakness of, Kent has broken out these separate kinds of memory issues. And under mind forgetful, he's really talking about something that's a slightly different issue. People can be forgetful for lots of reasons that don't specifically have to do with memory function, with short and long-term memory function. Okay? All right, let's clip forward out past the mind section into the vertigo section. And vertigo has to do with the entire person. Can you find some symptom in the vertigo section that has to do with staggering? A rubric in there that has to do with staggering. What do you find? Reeling? Vertigo reeling? Yes. Anything else? Vertigo with staggering. Absolutely. So these are things where somebody is actually physically moving differently during vertigo. Okay. The next section that we talked about last time was the head section. And it talks about the head in general, except for the face and the ears and facial features that go in other sections. And in Kent's repertory, remember that everything about head pain is folded into the head section. But in later repertories, head pain is its own section. Now, scalp and hair are also covered here, as well as in the skin section. So can you find something in the head section for itchy on the scalp? What can you find there? What do you see? Head itching of scalp, exactly. So we've got a sensation and we've got a particular location. And the scalp is a place, one of many that Kent gives us where itching is happening. Exactly. Okay. And then next we have the eye section. So the symptoms in this section have to do with the eyeball and the eyelids, but not the eyebrows. So in here, can you find the rubric that we looked at a minute ago about yellowness of the eyes? And then look in the vision section and see if you can find yellowness in the vision. If you look at yellowness in eyes, when you look at the remedies there, do you see that a lot of the remedies there have a strong affinity to the liver? Because yellowness of the eyes is one of the typical symptoms of hepatitis. And so this is going to be typical when we see something with liver problems, those liverish symptoms, they're going to have a lot of, we should be able to find chelidonium and lycopodium and things that are strongly associated with the liver there in those rubrics, shouldn't we? Yep, eye yellowness of the whites of the eye, yep. Okay, and then look in vision. Can you find something where someone's vision is colored yellow? So one of the very best ways to really develop your skills with the repertory, how many of you watch a TV show at least once a week? Ah, yes, I will, Joy. Thank you. We won't talk about it today, but I'll talk about it next time, okay? I can use that as an example rubric for us to explore. Okay, so you guys watch television. Yes, vision colors yellow. Excellent, Marjorie. Excellent, Kristen. Okay, so when you are sitting there watching a TV show once a week, do you do that? Downton Abbey or something? You can have your repertory there and somebody says something and you think, I wonder if that's a symptom in the repertory. And you start looking it up. Every commercial, you have to look up something. And it gives you a chance. It just gives you a reason to get in there and read. And the more you read, the more you're going to get used to what's in there. And there's just no substitute for exposure. Okay, so there we are. All right, so last time we looked through mind, vertigo, head, eye, vision, ear, hearing, and we said we would start off this next time with nose. And nose has some really, really useful things in it that we want to be aware of. There are some words that Kent used that we don't use anymore at all. One of them is catarrh, C-A-T-A-R-R-H, which basically means swelling and thickening. So you have catarrh, thickening of the nasal tissues themselves. And then we also have coryza, which is the discharge. That's your basic fluent, it's egg white or it's green or it's yellow or it's all those interesting descriptions that Dr. Kent gives us. And that's where we have the term coryza. How many of you have a copy of Yasgur's dictionary? Yep. So Yasgur's dictionary gives us a lot of context for these terms. And catarrh and coryza are included in here, even though nobody uses these words today. We would think of catarrh now, somebody would say, oh, my nose is congested. That's the phrase that they would use now. And actually, I don't know that in 1893, somebody also didn't say, oh, I have congestion. Maybe at that point, clients did say, I have catarrh, but they certainly don't now. But that's what that's going to mean. And coryza is all of the discharge. Okay? So how would you find a rubric for postnasal drip. You guys have any ideas about that? Yes, but in general, it absolutely is a discharge, but you don't see the discharge because it's going down the back of the throat, right? And so instead of falling out the nostrils, it is coming out of the posterior nares. So if you look under nose, discharge, let's say discharge yellow, posterior nares from. This would be somebody who has discharge yellowish gunk going down the back of their throat. Or you can just look, nose, discharge, posterior nares. These are the openings in the back of the nose and sinuses that let stuff drain down your throat. Can you guys find that? Nose, discharge, posterior nares? Okay. And again, in the later repertories, smell is broken out, but in Kent's repertory, it's all folded into that same section. So I presented a case last weekend of a guy who had a persistent smell of cherry cough drops, like those old Luden's cherry cough drops. I don't even know if they make those anymore, but nobody else could smell it. So it was an illusion of smell. And we would find this under odors, illusions. And Kent was very careful about all of these. Okay, Marjorie says, you got it, you found it. Yep, that's how we find postnasal drip. So what you can do now is open your repertory in the nose section to the place where the P's would be, where you would look for postnasal drip. And write a little note there that says postnasal drip, just get your pen and right there in the border, postnasal drip equals discharge, comma, posterior nares. And that way, if you forget our conversation today, you'll have a note right there that will remind you. Okay. So the next section that we're going to look at is face. And this is the front of the head, with the exception of the eyes and the nose that have their own section. And the mouth actually has its own section, but lips are associated with the face because they're on the outside. And some things are in both sections. Okay? So the face could cover some symptoms relating to the eyes, like what if you had discoloration under your eyes? Can you find face discoloration, eyes under, eyes around? Flip open in the face section and see what you can see there. What do you see? Right, it starts with face discoloration, and then it goes into colors. And you'll notice that Kent uses the color blue or bluish for purple. There was not, during his era, there was not a common description for purple. It was always described as bluish. So you just have to make that compromise. Okay, and also in here are all kinds of expressions when people have a vacant expression. So one of the things that you can do for entertainment is go into the rubrics about expressions and read each one and think about what that would look like, and then think, have I seen that expression like on one of my kids' faces, on my brother's face, on my cousin's face, on a politician's face? Have I seen that expression in my lifetime that I can relate to, or do I not really know what that would look like? And then you can also go stand in front of the mirror and try and make that expression. And if you do that, I promise you, you will remember these rubrics. Okay, the next section is the mouth section. So flip forward into the mouth section. And one of the things, how many of you have watched on the Trinity Health Hub the thing about tongues? There's an adjunct class about how to read a tongue. And you might be, if you're taking a case, you might be asking somebody, show me your tongue. So how would you look that up in the mouth section? Let's say somebody has a white coating on their tongue. How would you look that up in the mouth section? We have a tendency, if we're looking for a particular thing, like a tongue, to look under mouth, tongue. But Kent doesn't do it that way. Locations are almost always later than some condition. So thank you, Marjorie. Mouth, discoloration, tongue, white. That's where we're going to find it. So almost always, if you're looking for something about the cheek, or about the tongue, or about the roof of the mouth, or about the lower palate, you're always going to find those things later after the condition that you're curious about, like the discoloration, the white discoloration. Okay, and what about teeth? The next section is the teeth themselves, the actual just teeth. And it's not a very big section, and the most important part of this is tooth pain. And so this is something where, you know, in homeopathy, we have this tendency to think, oh yeah, we're taking care of whatever's going on with that person. But if they have a tooth problem, they just need to go to see the dentist. And I just want to disabuse you of that notion. Homeopathy can do a huge amount to help with dental pain. And there's wonderful, wonderful subtlety in here about pain, like from breathing in cold air, from drinking something, pain when you lay down on your pillow at night. Dr. Kent gathered up a lot of different symptoms here. Okay? Now, there are also a lot of really weird words in this section, and I encourage you to go look some of these things up somewhere. Check this out. Teeth, irregular formation of lower teeth in a scrofulous child with mesenteric disease. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kent. This is not terminology that we have now. And so we need to get good. Whenever you see something like this and you think, I have no idea what those words mean. What is irregular formation of a tooth? It's where the tooth is deformed. And what is scrofula? Well, you got to go Google that. Basically, it's an unhealthy tubercular terrain, ricketsy. It's something where there's a metabolic deficiency and that child is not developing properly. And if they've got irregular formation of the teeth, you can imagine that maybe they're not metabolizing calcium very well. So we have the opportunity as we study the repertory to also help us read materia medica better. If there's a word that we don't know what it is, our eyes are just going to tend to glance right over it. Does that ever happen to you guys? We just skip right past that and go on into the next sentence. And we're going to do that in the repertory, and we're going to do it in Materia Medica. So make yourself a commitment to actually go and find what these words mean. Go Google them. You know, when I was studying repertory originally, back in the dawn of time 30 years ago, I had an old 1890s medical dictionary that I had bought at a half-price books that I would look things up in. And it always took so much longer to keep looking it up. But once I had done it and looked something up a few times, then I knew what that word was, and my eyes didn't skip over it anymore. And so you want to make that part of getting familiar with this. We have to get familiar. Okay, Dot, we're winding up now. Dot has to go because she's got a supervision group. All right, so next time we're going to start again with throat and external throat. And in the meantime, please continue to doodle your section names and continue to get familiar with the remedy names at the beginning of Kent's repertory, okay? Any last comments or questions here? All right, thank you, and I'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.